The tow truck's hydraulic bed groaned as my sister's luxury SUV climbed inch by inch onto the flatbed. Jessica stood barefoot in the driveway, her face flushed red, screaming loud enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. "You stole my car. You're a pathetic, jealous loser." Neighbors were already on their porch steps recording with their phones. I didn't raise my voice. I just handed the driver my signed authorization form, turned to my sister, and said 4 words that shattered 8 years of lies. I didn't steal it. I stopped paying for it. Before we dive into how 8 years of family manipulation exploded on that driveway, let me know in the comments, where are you watching from today, and what time is it where you are? For almost 8 years, my family believed one thing: Jessica and Jacob were successful, beautiful house, luxury SUV, private school for their 2 children, beach vacations every summer, professional family photos every fall, matching Christmas pajamas every December. Social media loved them. The truth sat inside a folder in my office labeled Family Assistance. I owned a bookkeeping and financial consulting firm. Organization wasn't just part of my job, it was how my brain worked. Every payment had its own spreadsheet. Every receipt had its own folder. Every transfer had a note. Jessica's folder was thicker than every client file in my office. Her SUV payment, her insurance, electric, water, gas, internet, both cell phones, emergency credit card balances, private school tuition. More than once I'd paid their mortgage after Jacob quit another job. Whenever I hesitated, my mother had the same answer. Family helps family. Whenever I mentioned repayment, she'd sigh, "You've always been so good with money. Your sister just needs more time." Time turned into years. Jessica never thanked me, not once. If anything, she behaved as though I owed her. People always ask why I didn't stop sooner. The honest answer is embarrassing. Because every time I tried, my mother made me feel like I was abandoning innocent children instead of enabling 2 irresponsible adults. So I convinced myself I wasn't helping Jessica. I was helping my nieces. That lie became easier every year. Eventually, even I couldn't ignore the numbers. One Saturday morning, I printed 8 years of bank transfers. The stack was almost 2 inches thick. I added insurance invoices, loan statements, vehicle financing records. The reimbursement agreement Jessica had signed years earlier promising to repay me whenever they became financially stable. She'd never made a single payment. I called my parents. "We need to have dinner." I honestly believed a private conversation would fix everything. I wasn't angry. I wasn't looking for revenge, I just wanted acknowledgement. Maybe a payment plan, maybe an apology, something. When I arrived at the restaurant, 12 relatives were already sitting around 2 long tables. Nobody had mentioned this would become a family gathering. Jessica immediately burst into tears. "I can't believe you're charging family interest now." I never said. She didn't let me finish. "I thought you helped because you loved us." My mother reached across the table and squeezed Jessica's hand. "We didn't raise children to keep score." Heads nodded. Someone muttered, "Amen." Nobody asked why Jessica was crying. Nobody asked to see my paperwork. I slid the reimbursement agreement across the table anyway. My uncle barely glanced at it. Conversation drifted toward vacation plans. Dessert arrived. People stood, hugged, left. When I gathered my papers, the reimbursement agreement was gone. Every other document remained. Just that one. Someone had deliberately removed it. I drove home understanding something I should have recognized years earlier. They weren't choosing Jessica. They were choosing the version of reality that cost them nothing. Fortunately, paperwork doesn't disappear just because someone steals a page. I requested certified payment histories from my bank, certified insurance records, vehicle finance documents, original loan applications, digital authorization logs. If anyone wanted to challenge the truth, I wanted institutions speaking instead of me. The records arrived over the next 2 weeks. One detail stopped me cold. The SUV loan belonged to me, not Jessica. Years earlier, the dealership had refused financing because her credit score was terrible. I thought I was agreeing to be a co-signer, but now I realized the dealership processed it with me as the primary owner/borrower. Jessica had been listed only as the registered driver. I'd completely forgot. Apparently everyone else had too. A week later, my father celebrated his retirement. Nearly 40 relatives filled my parents' backyard. Jessica spent the afternoon telling everyone about an expensive cruise they planned to book. I smiled politely. Then I waited until we were alone near the patio. "I'm ending all financial assistance next month," she stared. "You can't." "I can. What about the kids? You and Jacob need to handle your own household." She laughed, actually laughed. "You'll cave." "I won't." She stepped closer. "You always do." "I mean it." Her expression changed instantly. The slap echoed across the patio. Conversation stopped. Every face turned toward us. Jessica pointed at me. "She's jealous because I'm the successful one." Then she smiled. Actually smiled. "She's always been a loser." Nobody asked why she'd hit me. Nobody asked what we'd been discussing. My mother hurried over. "Cassie, don't make a scene." I touched my cheek. It stung. Without saying another word, I walked to my car and drove home. I never raised my voice. I never defended myself. Instead, I opened my laptop. One by one, I canceled every automatic payment: utilities, insurance, cell phones, school tuition. Finally, I notified the finance company I was terminating third-party possession authorization on the vehicle. No revenge speech, no dramatic text, just paperwork. 2 days later, my mother called. "Come over for tea." "I don't think that's a good idea. We need peace." Against my better judgment, I went. She disappeared into the kitchen while I waited in the living room. Her laptop sat open on the coffee table. Normally, I wouldn't look. Then I noticed my own name, an email thread. "Jessica, Mom, 3 weeks before Dad's retirement party." I pulled out my phone. One photo, then another. Jessica had written, "Don't worry, she won't stop paying. She always folds." My mother replied, "Call her selfish publicly and she'll feel guilty." "That's how we've always gotten money," Jessica answered. "If she says no again, we'll tell everyone she's ruining the kids." The dates hit me harder than the words. The slap hadn't been spontaneous. Neither had the humiliation. It had been planned before I ever spoke to Jessica. Mom returned carrying tea. I locked my phone, smiled, stayed another 15 minutes, then left. I cried in my car for almost an hour, not because they wanted money, because they'd been studying me, learning exactly which emotions to weaponize. The next morning, I hired attorney Paula Mitchell. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she asked only one question: "Do you have documentation?" I slid 3 boxes across her conference table. She smiled. "I was hoping you'd say yes." Within days, she brought in a forensic accountant. Every payment was categorized, every agreement indexed, every communication preserved. By the end of the week, she leaned back in her chair. "You can terminate every financial obligation immediately. What about the SUV? You legally own the loan. So if they refuse to surrender possession, the finance company can recover the vehicle." For the first time in weeks, I slept through the night. I believed everything would quietly end. I couldn't have been more wrong. Jessica went to Facebook. According to her posts, I'd stolen her vehicle, I'd abandoned innocent children, I'd manipulated contracts, I'd become mentally unstable. Church friends called asking if I needed counseling. Clients quietly canceled appointments. Someone anonymously reported my bookkeeping business for financial misconduct. That one scared me. My reputation paid my mortgage. If licensing investigators believed the accusations, years of work could disappear. Instead of waiting, I contacted the board myself. I voluntarily submitted every financial record connected to Jessica before they even requested them. My attorney said something I'll never forget. "The first person willing to show everything usually has nothing to hide." While preparing those records, my forensic accountant frowned at his computer. "That's strange." "What?" He enlarged a reimbursement agreement supposedly signed years earlier. "Look at the metadata. Creation date, 3 weeks ago. Modification history, same afternoon, digital signature. Copied image. Someone had scanned my signature, copied it, pasted it onto fake reimbursement agreements. The cloud history showed every version. Nothing had actually been deleted. They'd simply assumed nobody would check." My attorney looked up. "They were preparing to accuse you of fraud." If the repossession happened, she nodded. They intended to say you manufactured documents after the fact. Instead, the metadata documented their forgery instead. Everything moved into institutional hands after that. Financial crimes investigators, the accounting licensing board, the vehicle finance company, my bank's fraud department. None of them cared about family loyalty. None of them cared about Facebook posts. They cared about timestamps. Routing numbers, original signatures, cloud backups, independent records. The accounting board dismissed every complaint against me. The finance company confirmed I was the legal borrower. The bank opened a fraud investigation. Police began reviewing the forged documents. One organization after another reached the same conclusion without ever speaking to each other. Truth has a strange way of repeating itself when records exist. The repossession happened 3 weeks later. After I canceled the auto pay, payments defaulted, my attorney initiated a legal recovery/surrender request with the lender due to unauthorized possession. Exactly where this story began. Jessica screamed. Neighbors recorded. Jacob argued with the tow operator. It changed nothing. Paperwork doesn't negotiate. Consequences arrived slowly. Utilities shut off after unpaid bills. Insurance canceled. The children's private school required immediate payment. Jessica's credit collapsed. Jacob started working 2 jobs. Their social media suddenly stopped showing vacations. My mother lost her volunteer position as church treasurer after the email chain became known. People who had trusted her with fundraising accounts suddenly wondered what else she'd manipulated. My father came to my office one afternoon carrying a cardboard box. Inside were copies of my certified bank records. I finally read them. I waited. I should have years ago. He looked older than I remembered. I believed appearances, he swallowed. I'm sorry. It wasn't a perfect apology. It wasn't enough to repair everything, but it was real. I accepted it. Nothing more, nothing less. 3 months later, my phone rang. Jessica. I almost ignored it. Instead, I answered. She was crying. I've been thinking. I said nothing. I handled everything wrong. Still nothing. I've changed. People usually say that right before asking for something. She didn't disappoint. I just need the car back until we get on our feet. I looked out my office window at the parking lot. I'll think about it. Then I waited. 10 full days. On the 11th morning, I sent a single text. I accept that you regret what happened. I hope you build a stable life. But I won't finance it anymore. The payments, housing help, emergency money, and access to my accounts are permanently over. She called 3 times. I didn't answer. My mother eventually sent a shorter message blaming stress, blaming misunderstandings, blaming everyone except herself. I never replied. A few weeks ago, I cleaned out old filing cabinets. Near the bottom of one box, I found a faded thank you card Jessica had written after I'd helped them years earlier. The handwriting was genuine. For a moment, I almost smiled. Then I noticed the yellow sticky note attached to the back. My own handwriting, family first. I peeled the sticky note away, folded it once, dropped it into the trash. The thank you card went back into the box. Some memories deserve to stay, some reminders don't.